When I caught my wife with her lover and he stabbed me 17 times. Left me in the bathtub while my wife laughed and took photos. I called my brother Delta Force operator and whispered, "Black sight them." What my bro did to them was horrifying. I was bleeding out in my own bathtub when I realized my wife never actually loved me. She loved the game. That's the thought that stuck in my head as I watched the ceiling swim above me. Blood pooling around my ribs. The tile cold under my back. Somewhere in the house, her voice floated down the hallway. Calm, calculating, cruel. "Make sure he's dead this time." She didn't sound scared. She sounded annoyed. Like I was a problem she thought she'd already deleted. Let me back up. My name's Evan Mercer, founder of Arcline Interactive, a game studio that went from a 2-man apartment hustle to a $100 million empire built on a hit called Tactica. I designed worlds where betrayal was strategy, where players learned that trust was just another resource to weaponize. Funny how I didn't see it happening in my own life until it was way too late. The woman now planning my murder was Camila Torres Mercer, my wife of 4 years. When I met her, she was a marketing prodigy. Smooth, magnetic, all sharp edges and champagne smiles. She told me she believed in my vision, that together we could build something untouchable. I believed her, every word. She was right, just not in the way I thought. Now, as my pulse slowed, I could hear his voice too low, nervous. "Cam, he's still breathing." "Jesus Christ," you said. "Then finish it, Ryan," she snapped. "Do you want him crawling back and ruining everything?" Ryan Hale, real estate developer, professional liar, amateur sociopath. The guy I'd trusted as a consultant when we started expanding into virtual properties. Turns out he'd been expanding somewhere else, into my wife. Their plan had been simple. Bleed me dry, sell company secrets to competitors, then disappear with my money before I noticed. Only I noticed too soon. I confronted them, and instead of divorcing me, they decided to erase me. The knife had gone in 16 times before I fell. I should have died right there on the bathroom floor. But I didn't. I watched as Ryan stumbled back, shaking, muttering, "He's gone, he's done." And Camila, my wife, stepped forward with her phone and took pictures. Flash, 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 like she was documenting her victory. She smiled down at me, almost tender. "No prenup for dead men," she whispered. Then the world went black. I don't know how long I was out before I woke up, weak, bleeding, half blind. I crawled toward the sink, fingers slipping on tile slick with blood. My phone was still in my pocket, somehow untouched. I couldn't lift it, but I could use voice command. "Call Daniel Mercer," I rasped. "My brother, ex-Special Forces. The kind of man who didn't ask questions, only solved problems." The phone rang twice before he answered, groggy, confused. "Evan? It's 3 in the black sight them." I breathed, every word a lightning bolt of pain. "Wait, what? Evan, where are you? What happened?" But I couldn't answer. My hand slipped, the phone hit the tile, and the last thing I heard before darkness swallowed everything was his voice. Frantic, breaking. "Evan, stay with me." The world faded. When I opened my eyes again, it wasn't light I saw. It was shadows, humming machines, and the faint scent of antiseptic. A voice beside me said, "Welcome back, Mr. Mercer. You should have died." And I realized I hadn't escaped the game. It had just changed levels. For years before the bathtub, I thought I'd found my soulmate. I met Camila Torres at a developers conference in San Diego. She was on a panel about human psychology and marketing. And I swear the room bent around her. Confident, razor-sharp, dressed like she owned the place. Which, in a way, she did. After her talk, I introduced myself, Evan Mercer, indie developer, broke genius trying to build something big. She laughed, told me she already knew who I was. Said Tactica was the most addictive brain game since caffeine. She slid me her card, handwritten on the back. "Let's make something legendary." 2 weeks later, she was consulting for my studio. 6 months later, we were sleeping together. A year after that, she was my wife. Everyone said we were unstoppable. Forbes called us Seattle's Power Couple 2.0. Camila was the face of Arcline's expansion. Eloquent, charming, the kind of woman who could walk into a room full of investors and walk out with 10 million in funding. She had this way of making people feel like she saw them. I guess I wasn't the only one who fell for it. For the first 2 years, everything felt perfect. We'd wake up at dawn, drink cold brew while reviewing user metrics. She'd sit on the counter in silk robes, legs crossed, analyzing market behavior like she was born for it. She'd whisper, "We're going to own this city, Evan." And I believed her. But perfection has a smell, too clean, too polished. Around year 3, the scent changed. She started taking business trips every other week. LA, Vegas, Austin. Places where Arcline didn't have clients. She said it was networking, but her receipts said otherwise. Hotel bars, rooftop lounges, expensive dinners charged to her personal card. When I asked about it, she'd laugh and say, "You track me like I'm one of your algorithms." The first lie I caught was small. She said she was at a conference in Chicago. Her Instagram story showed palm trees. When I called her out, she just smirked. "Wow, you really checked the trees?" It was such a subtle thing, but it was the moment I realized she didn't care if I caught her. Then came Ryan Hale, introduced as a real estate consultant, helping us acquire land for our new VR campus. He was older, smug, always wearing suits that screamed money and insecurity. I didn't like him from the start, but Camila insisted he was crucial, said he had connections I didn't understand. Within months, he was everywhere. Dinners, strategy meetings, popping up in our home office like he lived there. Once, I walked in on them laughing, too close, too familiar. When I asked, Camila rolled her eyes. "Don't be jealous, babe. You hate small talk anyway." That night, I couldn't sleep. I went through our shared business email, and that's when I found the folder. Encrypted, hidden, titled Legacy. Inside, confidential pitch decks, upcoming prototypes, internal reports. All with access granted to our .hale@mercerconsulting.com. A company that didn't exist until 2 months prior. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted proof. Cold, mathematical, undeniable proof. So I did what I do best. I built a system. Installed discrete home surveillance. Tagged her phone location to our internal network. Set alerts for flagged terms like transfer, sell, wire. And within weeks, the patterns appeared. Wire transfers from shell companies tied to Ryan. Late-night calls to restricted numbers. Trips that always overlapped. One hotel room booked in 2 names. The data was so perfect it hurt to look at it. My wife, my partner, my co-founder was selling me out, piece by piece. Still, I didn't stop her. I wanted to see how far she'd go. Until the day she crossed a line I couldn't ignore. It was a Friday. My lead developer, Jace, came into my office holding a USB drive. "Hey boss," he said, uneasy. This came in from a client referral through Camila's contacts. They wanted a private build of Tactica Shadow State. But when I checked the metadata, he handed me the drive. The client name Red Hale Enterprises LLC. And the last modified user? Camila. Mercer. That was the day I stopped loving her. That was the day I started planning. After that Friday, something in me switched off. Love turned into calculation. Pain turned into pattern recognition. Every word Camila said became data, every smile a variable. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was the guy quietly building her downfall. For 3 weeks, I played along. Pretended to be the tired, overworked tech founder buried in deadlines while secretly documenting everything. Every account she accessed. Every email she sent from her burner laptop. Every night she left the house after strategy calls. She was good. I'll give her that. She covered tracks like a professional spy. But she forgot who she married. I wrote the algorithms that trained military AI to predict deception under pressure. She didn't stand a chance. By the time I hired a private investigator, I already had 80% of the truth. I just wanted confirmation. His name was Neil Sato, ex-cop, the kind of man who could find your shadow in a thunderstorm. 2 weeks later, he handed me a folder with that quiet pity cops reserved for domestic cases. "Whatever you think you know," he said. It's worse. I waited until he left before opening it. Photos. Dozens of them. Camila at a rooftop bar, laughing into Ryan Hale's shoulder. Camila leaving a hotel room in Los Angeles wearing my hoodie. Camila in bed, my bed, with him. The timestamp was from the night I'd flown to DC for a government contract meeting. She texted me that night. Proud of you, baby. Go make history. I sat there staring at those words on my phone while her image stared back at me from the photos. Bare, grinning, unashamed. That night I didn't cry. I didn't even rage. I just stopped sleeping. The following week, I noticed something new. Her attitude shifted. She wasn't just distracted. She was nervous, checking my schedule constantly, asking which days I'd be in the office. She started hiding documents, password locking her laptop. Once, I caught her standing in my home office at 2 a.m., staring at my safe like she was deciding whether to break it open. And then came the weirdest part. She started being nice. Breakfasts in bed. Sudden kisses. Unprompted sex. The kind of affection that doesn't come from love. It comes from guilt. I played along. Smiled. Let her believe I was blind again. But inside, I was already 10 steps ahead. I made copies of the prenup. Updated my will. Backed up all her messages and encrypted them under my private servers labeled Wraith. If anything happened to me, everything would upload to the cloud: emails, photos, location logs, even the security cam footage. Still, I didn't plan for violence. I thought she'd try to drain me financially, maybe push me out of my own company. I never believed she'd go as far as killing me. Until the charity gala. Camila insisted we host one for brand visibility. She even booked the Fairmont downtown, hired photographers, PR, the works. The guest list was a who's who of Seattle tech. Investors, influencers, journalists. Halfway through the night, I found her outside smoking with Ryan. They didn't see me. He was whispering in her ear, hand low on her back, and she laughed, that laugh, the one I used to think was mine. But what caught my attention wasn't them. It was the USB drive Ryan slipped into her clutch. I recognized the model. It was one of Arcline's encrypted prototypes, identical to the drive used for our new game engine. That's when it clicked. They weren't just stealing from me. They were transferring my company's intellectual property. A billion-dollar betrayal. That night, I made a decision. No lawyers. No divorce. No police. If Camila wanted to play games, I'd give her one, the last she'd ever play. I started building something new, a system I called Project Revenant. A hidden layer inside Tactica's server network. One that could track, record, and weaponize every digital footprint she made. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I wanted her to think she was winning, because the cruelest revenge doesn't happen fast. It happens when your enemy doesn't even know the game started. And for Camila, it had just begun. The day it all snapped started like any other. Silence over breakfast. Camila scrolling through her phone, ignoring me like I was a piece of furniture that occasionally spoke. "You'll be home late?" she asked, not looking up. "Probably," I said. She nodded, texting someone so fast her nails clacked like teeth. I caught a glimpse of the name on her screen, R. Hale, before she tilted the phone away. I went to work pretending I didn't see it. But by then, my home security system had been upgraded. I could see everything from my phone. Every camera, every motion sensor, every sound. Even the ones I'd hidden behind the vents. That afternoon, a notification pinged. Motion detected, master bedroom. I tapped in. 2 figures. Camila, Ryan. In my house. In my bed. And they weren't just screwing. They were planning. The camera caught everything. Her voice, low and focused. "He's not going to sign the merger. He knows something." Ryan's reply, "Then we'll have to accelerate." "Accelerate what?" She smiled, cold. "The contingency plan." I froze. "A contingency plan? For what?" I scrubbed through the audio feed, heart hammering. "Once the transfer goes through, he becomes unnecessary," she said. "You know what I mean." Ryan hesitated. "Cam murders Messi. I can make him disappear financially. We don't need—" "He'll fight back," she interrupted. "You don't know him. He's obsessive. If he survives this, he'll take us both down. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but the mic caught it. Then he can't survive. My stomach turned to ice. I watched her crawl across the bed, kiss Ryan, and whisper, "After it's done, we're free." That was the first time I saw what she really was. Not a lover, not a partner, but a strategist. Every smile she'd given me, every touch, had been a calculated move toward one outcome: control. I didn't call the cops. I didn't call my brother. I sat there for 2 hours, staring at that footage, then copied it to an encrypted drive labeled Queen's Gambit. By midnight, I'd already changed the locks, backed up everything, and called my attorney. I was ready to file for divorce in the morning, until I got a message from Neil, my investigator. "Neil, we need to talk. Now, it's urgent." "Me? About the case?" "Neil, about your wife, and your company. You're not going to like this." We met in a parking garage downtown. He looked pale, sweating. "She's been in contact with someone from your board," he said. "Who?" He hesitated, then handed me a photo. "Jace, my lead developer, my friend, the guy who'd found the USB drive that started this whole thing. They're meeting weekly," Neil said. "Sometimes at her condo, sometimes at Hale's property downtown. Money's moving between accounts." I followed the transfers. "Jace is laundering data through his dev credentials. Your source code's already been cloned." My chest went hollow. "You're telling me my best friend's part of this?" Neil nodded. "I'm sorry, Evan. It's an inside job." It all made sense. Jace was the only one with back-end access. The only one who could make my internal systems invisible long enough for her to move files without triggering alerts. Camila hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She'd built a team. I drove home that night numb. She was already there in silk, pretending to read. She smiled when she saw me. That fake, polished smile that used to melt me. "How was work?" she asked sweetly. For a split second, I almost told her everything. That I knew, that I'd seen the videos, that the walls were closing in. But instead, I smiled back. "Productive," I said. "Very productive. We had dinner. We made small talk. We even laughed." And as she poured wine into my glass, I realized something horrifying. If Neil was right, the next move wasn't business. It was murder. She wasn't smiling because she'd fooled me. She was smiling because she thought she'd already won. And I didn't know it yet, but by the next evening, I'd be bleeding out in that bathtub, whispering my last words into a phone. They said I should have died that night. 18 stab wounds, collapsed lung, heart laceration. No one survives that kind of damage without divine intervention or sheer spite. I guess I had both. When I woke up, it wasn't in a hospital. It was in what looked like a military infirmary hidden inside a warehouse. Metal walls, no windows, a faint hum of machines and antiseptic air that burned my throat. Tubes in my arms, bandages wrapped tight around my chest. My brother, Daniel Mercer, sat beside me, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Welcome back," he said quietly. "You coded twice on the table. Kathy kept you alive." I looked over and saw a woman in scrubs and combat boots at a portable med station. She didn't meet my eyes. She just said, "Don't thank me yet. You shouldn't even be conscious." "Where am I?" I croaked. Daniel leaned forward. "You're nowhere." He handed me a small recorder. He'd already replayed it, the audio from my house, captured by the surveillance mics. Camila's laughter, Ryan's voice, the sound of the knife. He paused it before my last words, before the gurgling plea. "Black sight them. You remember saying that?" he asked. I nodded weakly. "Then we're doing it," he said. "We're off-grid now. No police. No courts. Just us." He wasn't joking. Daniel wasn't just ex-special forces. He was the kind of operator who vanished problems the government didn't want to exist. If he said black site, it meant one thing: permanent disappearance. I tried to sit up. Pain screamed through me. "Where are they?" "Still in Seattle," Daniel said. "Checked into a motel under fake names. They think you're dead." He leaned closer. "We can make that part true for them. I couldn't speak, so I just looked at him. "Say the word," he said. "I'll make them ghosts by sunrise." It should have scared me hearing that calm certainty. But it didn't. All I could see was her face, the way she smiled while taking pictures of me dying. The way she said, "No prenup for dead men." She turned my life into a campaign map, played her moves perfectly, until she forgot who she was playing against. "Do it," I whispered. "But I want to see it." Daniel stared at me, unreadable again. "You sure?" "I designed systems that broke human behavior," I said. "I want to see how they break." For the next 48 hours, Daniel built the plan. He called in favors that weren't supposed to exist. Rented vehicles through burner accounts. Requisitioned surveillance tech from Black Ops inventory. Every detail had purpose. No cameras, no paper trails, no witnesses. Meanwhile, I was healing under Kathy's brutal care. "Your body's running on adrenaline and anger," she told me. "That'll wear off. What happens when it does?" "I finished the game," I said. At night, I watched the security feed Daniel had set up from their motel. Camila pacing the room, wearing my old sweatshirt like a trophy. Ryan drinking himself into oblivion, muttering about getting out before she turns on me. It was almost funny, watching them unravel under the weight of their own greed. Almost. By the third night, Daniel came back with 2 syringes of morphine and a question. "You want to be there, or you want to sleep through it?" "I want to be awake," I said. "Every second." He didn't argue, just loaded his sidearm, checked his watch and said, "We move at 0100. As he turned to leave, I grabbed his wrist. "Make sure they know why." "They'll know," he said. "And Evan?" "What?" "When this is done, there's no coming back. You can't unsee what we're about to do." I looked him dead in the eye. "They didn't just try to kill me, Dan. They killed who I used to be. Whatever's left, that's yours to work with." He nodded once and walked out, leaving me with the hum of machines and the faint echo of my wife's laughter looping in my head. Outside, the night was waiting, and somewhere across Seattle, the 2 people who thought they'd buried me alive were about to learn that some ghosts don't rest. They hunt. It was supposed to be simple. In and out. 2 ghosts erased from the map. But nothing about what came next was simple. At 1:07 a.m., Daniel's van rolled up behind the Rainier View Motel, a grimy 2-story box off Highway 99. Cameras looped, locks bypassed. Ryan and Camila were both inside, separate rooms, same hallway. He moved like he'd done this 100 times. Because he had. Through the feed on the tablet propped beside my hospital bed, I watched in silence. My pulse synced to the camera shake as Daniel entered room 12. 1 hit of chloroform. 1 drop of a body to the carpet. Then silence. He moved to room 14. I could almost smell the stale cigarette smoke through the mic. "Camila Torres," he said. She gasped once before the feed cut to black. When it came back, both were zip-tied in the van, hoods over their heads. I thought I'd feel vindicated. Instead, I felt nothing, just a cold hum under my ribs. Then everything went wrong. At 3:19 a.m., Daniel called. His voice was tight. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" They weren't alone. He sent a still frame. A woman, early 30s, dark hair, bound gagged in the motel's bathroom. One of Ryan's assistants, a financial handler named Lena Crow. "She walked in while we were bagging them," Daniel said. "Saw everything. If I leave her, she calls the cops by sunrise." "Then bring her," I said automatically. "She's not part of this. She helped him move my money. She's pregnant, Evan." The words cracked the air between us. For the first time since the stabbing, I hesitated. Pregnant. I imagined her staring at the blood, shaking, realizing she was next. "You told me no innocence," Daniel said quietly. "There are no innocents," I snapped, louder than I meant to. Silence. Then, "I'll figure it out." The line went dead. I didn't sleep. By dawn, I knew the feed would show all 3 inside the holding cells at Daniel's off-book facility. Camila pacing, Ryan cursing, Lena sitting perfectly still, both hands over her stomach. I stared at her for hours. At first, she looked terrified. Then something changed. She started talking to the camera. "Evan," she said softly. "I know you're watching. I didn't know what they planned. Ryan said it was a data transfer, not a hit. I can prove it. Check your offshore accounts. There's another name on the wires. Camila's sister. She's the one who..." The feed cut out. Static. Then Daniel appeared on screen. "We have a bigger mess than you think," he said. He played the recovered footage from Lena's phone. Covert recordings, voice notes, backup files she'd been keeping as leverage against Ryan and Camila. What it showed shattered everything I thought I knew. The real architect of the plan wasn't Ryan. Wasn't even Camila. It was my own CFO, Miles Benton, my college roommate, the man who'd co-signed Arcline's first loan. The same man who'd been feeding Camila insider data in exchange for shares she promised him once I was gone. Ryan and Camila were pawns. The knife had always belonged to someone else. I lay there, bandaged, shaking, listening to Daniel say, "Your company's bleeding from the inside. You cut off the limbs, but the heart's still rotten." And for the first time, I realized the truth. Killing them wouldn't end it. The people who betrayed me weren't just in my house. They were still sitting in my boardroom. The game wasn't over. It was just moving to the next level. Daniel flew back into Seattle under a burner identity. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You need to see this for yourself," he said. I was off the ventilator by then, walking with a cane and a chest full of scar tissue. We met in a warehouse that still smelled of bleach from whatever cleanup they'd done after bringing in Camila and the others. On a monitor in front of me was a single file, Project Horizon.mp4. "Play it," I said. The video opened on a boardroom I knew too well, Arcline headquarters, the 30th floor conference room overlooking the bay. Sitting at the head of the table was Miles Benton, my CFO and supposed friend of 15 years. Camila sat to his right, Ryan to his left. All smiling. Miles was the one talking. "Once the transfer completes, Mercer's shareholdings auto-execute to the surviving partner clause. I'll move control to the new holding entity within 48 hours. We'll liquidate his assets, merge the IP with Helix Dynamics, and go public by Q4. If we time the announcement after his accident, it'll double valuation." Ryan raised his glass. "To cleaning up the mess." Miles smirked. "To starting over with my company." I felt the blood rush to my head. My vision blurred. The file continued, Miles signing documents, handing Camila a set of offshore banking codes. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even about jealousy. It was a hostile takeover. Camila hadn't betrayed me for Ryan. She'd done it for Miles. Ryan was just muscle, a disposable wildcard to take the fall. Daniel paused the video. He used her, Evan. Promised her equity, the house, everything. When the deal closed, he was going to have her killed, too. Make it look like a lover's murder-suicide. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. She thought she was playing me. Turns out she was the pawn. Daniel nodded. "I pulled their communications. Miles used your own encryption protocol to coordinate it. He even wrote in your syntax so if anything leaked, it'd look like you were embezzling." All those years I'd spent teaching Miles how my systems worked, how to hide code in plain sight, he'd memorized it. Turned it into a weapon against me. "That's why she looked so calm when you confronted her," Daniel said. "She thought she had legal immunity. The company would fall to Benton. She'd inherit the personal assets. Everyone wins. Except Ryan," I muttered. "Ryan was never supposed to survive you." I stared at the frozen image on the screen. Miles laughing, the people I'd loved turning my life into a business plan. There was no emotion left. No rage, no grief, no heartbreak. Just precision. "I want him," I said. Daniel frowned. "He's untouchable right now. Lawyers, security, eyes everywhere. Then make him disappear like the others. You sure you want to keep playing this game? There's no end to it." "There's always an end," I said. "You just have to be willing to pay the cost." Later that night, Daniel left to prepare the logistics. I stayed alone with the screen, replaying Miles's speech over and over. Every time I caught something new. The way he looked directly into the camera at one point, as if he knew I'd see it someday. As if he wanted me to. Evan's problem, he said in that smug, even voice, is that he believes everyone plays by rules. But business is war. You win not by being right, but by being the last one standing. That line cut deeper than any knife Camila had ever held. Because it was something I had said once, to Miles years ago when we were broke kids building Arcline in a basement. He'd learned the lesson too well. He didn't betray me out of greed. He did it to prove he was better at my own game. And that's when I understood the real motive. The one that chilled me more than the stabbing, more than Camila's laughter. Miles hadn't wanted my company. He'd wanted my identity. He wanted to be me. And the only way to win that game was to erase me completely. Miles thought he'd erased me. Thought the scars and silence meant he'd already won. But you can't kill a man who built his whole life on predicting moves before they happen. 3 weeks after Daniel showed me the footage, I was walking again. Slow, crooked, but alive. I started showing up at the office in quiet ways. An email reply here, a calendar update there, messages sent from my old account at odd hours. I wanted Miles to feel the ghost before he saw the body. Meanwhile, Daniel went to work dismantling him the same way Miles had dismantled me. Quietly, clinically. We cloned his devices, siphoned his hidden offshore accounts, and built a digital trail that made it look like he was laundering company funds through shell corporations in Belize. When the time came, I didn't go to the police. I went to the FBI cybercrime unit anonymously. They were already circling him because of Helix Dynamics' questionable contracts. All they needed was a reason to dig deeper. We gave them one. The raid happened on a Monday morning. Miles was halfway through a board meeting when agents stormed the glass conference room. The footage leaked online within hours. Arcline CFO arrested for corporate espionage and financial fraud. The best part? The documents they found on his computer were real, because I'd written them. Every line of code, every transaction timestamped months before he even made his move. He tried to deny everything, but the evidence chain was flawless. He was too smart to plead insanity, too proud to take a deal. Within 6 months, he was convicted and sentenced to 20 years. Camila and Ryan, they never stood trial. The world assumed they'd vanished together. Their bank accounts were emptied, their names deleted from every database that mattered. As far as anyone knew, they were dead. But I knew better. Daniel had moved them long ago. Deep underground, somewhere beyond maps and mercy. I never asked where. He never volunteered. Sometimes I'd catch him staring off when the topic came up, jaw tight, eyes cold. Whatever he'd done, it wasn't quick. And Lena, the pregnant woman, she disappeared too, but voluntarily. Daniel helped her vanish to a safe house in Oregon under a new name, new life. She sent one letter months later. Your brother scares me, but he kept his word. The baby's safe. Don't look for us. I didn't. By the next spring, I was back in my office. The press hailing me as the genius who saved Arcline from corruption. They had no idea the corruption had started with me trusting the wrong people. One evening, Daniel came by unannounced. He stood in the doorway, still in his tactical jacket. It's over, he said. Miles will rot in prison. The others gone. I nodded. And you? He shrugged. Off to the next mission. Thank you, I said quietly. He turned to leave but stopped. You know, for a guy who designs strategy games, you sure took the scenic route to victory. Maybe, I said. But I learned something along the way. What's that? Some games don't end when you win. They end when you stop playing. He gave a faint smile and left. That night, I poured a drink and stood by my window overlooking downtown Seattle. The city lights shimmered across the bay, neon reflections rippling like ghosts. Somewhere in a cell, Miles Benton was learning what it meant to be outplayed. Somewhere else, my wife and her lover were counting days in silence. I'd reclaimed everything. My company, my name, my future. But when I looked in the glass, I barely recognized the man staring back. People think revenge feels like victory. It doesn't. Feels like survival. Cold, quiet survival. Still, as I raised my glass, I whispered the same words I'd said bleeding on that bathroom floor. Black sight them. Then I drank, smiled at my reflection, and muttered, checkmate.